Hello again, friends. Welcome to this month's yoga guide, yoga practice. I want to invite you as we start to grab a couple of items, pillows, blankets, any bolsters or blocks that you have at home. The theme for this month is yoga for the flooded nervous system. So go ahead and grab your things. I'm going to chat at you for a moment. When we use the term flooding or emotional flooding in psychology, what we're talking about is kind of constant sensation and stimuli, often which then causes our nervous system to sort of be primed for a stress response. So we see this clinically most commonly with people who have PTSD or things like that. But it is also a term that is used kind of for the average person. And in a less clinical setting, emotional flooding refers to being at max capacity in life for an extended period of time. So it can be a chronic stress, something brought on by a particular event. We see this with grief. When we're grieving, our nervous systems are sort of primed for a prolonged period of time because we've experienced a great loss. We can see this when entering a new job, when starting at a new school. It doesn't mean that the things that are happening are innately bad or negative, but just there's this new level of heightened awareness. Sometimes it causes a bit of hypervigilance. That's where we sort of feel on edge or like we're walking on eggshells for a while. Typically, events like that do have an end point. There comes a point where we kind of live with grief and we've mourned, and now we're sort of starting another chapter in life. When we start a new job or we start at a new school, after a couple weeks, maybe after a couple months, we sort of feel familiar. We know what to expect. We might be on a first name basis with some people at that point, and we kind of feel like we have a community or a sense of belonging or a sense of safety. Something that's been talked about a bit recently is how living through a pandemic, instead of it being a couple weeks or a couple months, many of us are living through something that can feel like chronic stress, but for over a year at this point. And obviously everyone's experience with the pandemic and job loss or job insecurity or moving virtual or now things beginning to move back in person, that's obviously very different for a bunch of different people, and our experiences are varied. But many of us still have a flooded nervous system. So this can feel like decision fatigue. This can feel like physical fatigue, but not brought on by any particular event or workout. And this yoga practice is for our nervous system. You can think of this practice as self-care for the nervous system. Our nervous system is broken down into a couple different parts and branches, and we aren't going to go into all of that here. But know that if that description of emotional flooding really resonated with you, I highly recommend looking up the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, the different parts of the body that they correspond to, and seeing if one system feels particularly primed or particularly affected. And that can help even tailor your own personal yoga or mindfulness practices even more. How we take care of our nervous systems is primarily by restoring a sense of safety. So this is why I invited you to grab some cushions and things like that. We'll start seated, and if it's comfortable for you to be seated up on your knees, that's how we'll begin. But know that if this does not feel good on your knees or good on your ankles, you certainly do not have to start seated this way. I will also invite you to take a block or blanket or pillow. My personal favorite is to take a pillow. And to place it between your heels or sort of between the flesh of the back of the knees. so that you can be here for a couple moments, beginning to center the body and breathe. So whatever seated position you choose, think about bringing your spine to equilibrium, your body sort of symmetrical, right side to left side. Offering yourself a couple deep breaths. And as it feels good to do so, maybe turning off any external stimuli. So this might mean a yoga practice without music or dimming the lights. I tried to dim my lights as much as the camera would allow. This can also look like turning a TV off that's in the background, or lighting a candle and choosing to do this practice by candlelight, very low light, very low sound. When you're ready to find some movement here, gently start with some head and neck circles. Think about letting your jaw unclench and letting the muscles of the face as well as the neck sort of stretch and soften here. Go ahead and switch directions if you haven't yet. When it feels good and natural in your own sequence, come back up towards a tall, neutral neck. And next here we will blend a little bit of a mudra and a Tai Chi practice. So we talked about mudras last month. That's hand symbols or signals that are supposedly shifting energy, or at least shifting intention and focus. And so a mudra that I love to practice, especially in times of flooding, is to flip the palm upward and to either hold it or to even press forward. How we're going to blend this with Tai Chi is that we'll do it with both hands at the same time and with the breath. So on an inhale, I invite you to hands facing down, sort of lift up by your wrists. And then with an exhale, flip the palms forward and press them forward. It may feel good to exhale out of the mouth here. We'll take a couple breaths like this. Inhaling to lift up through the wrists. Big exhale to press the palms forward. Both in Tai Chi and the single hand forward mudra are considered signs of protection or an intention of protection. So again, if that resonates with you, I invite you as you exhale to think about breathing away anything that feels unsafe, or even pushing away with your hands anything that is encroaching on your own personal boundaries, on your own personal well-being. 3 breaths more. We'll take another deep breath in and sweep arms up. This time, exhale however you'd like. Begin to drop hands forward, moving the body towards a child's pose. You are welcome to keep cushion between your heels and your hip bones. You may also bring cushion forward, or do a bit of both, to support your upper body. So we'll take 6 to 10 full breaths in a child's pose. Curl up however you'd like. And I invite you to continue to breathe really deeply and really fully in this pose. Either continue to hold here, choosing a more restorative styled practice, or begin to flow here, exhaling to rock back into your child's pose, inhaling to lift up and rock the hips forward into some kind of Sphinx or Cobra stretch. Go wherever your breath, your body needs. We'll take another 6 or so breaths here. Wherever you're at, the next time that you land in your child's pose or melt there, slowly begin to walk the hands and the chest up and take a couple cat-cow stretches. Up to you if you want to do this in a traditional tabletop pose or if you'd like to keep the hips back. Choosing more of a seated variation. Completely up to you. Move your spine with your breath. 3 breaths more. With your own breath, finish out a sequence and then begin to rock your hips over and to the right, landing on the outer edge of your right hip. And as you feel steady here, with an inhale, sweep your right arm up and exhale it towards your toes on the left. Great big side body stretch here. It may feel good to roll through that top right wrist or to rock through your chin or a bit of both. 2 breaths more. With your next exhale, gently drop the right hand down and begin to turn your left shoulder towards your right knee. We'll take a twist here. Know that you're welcome to keep the chest lifted or to drop the chest down towards the ground. If the chest comes all the way down towards the floor, this is considered a reverse laying spinal twist. Again, lots of variation. Go where your body loves to go. And settle in for another 3 or so breaths. In a way that feels good on your body, I invite you to begin to walk the hands in, once again lifting the chest up, and then to switch sides. So to now rock weight towards the outer edge of your left hip, sort of kicking feet over to the right. Whenever you have a deep breath in, beginning to sweep left fingers up and over, great big side body stretch, feeling free to still move through your wrist, your shoulder, your neck, your jaw. Nothing needs to feel rigid here. Think about using the stretch to loosen, to give your nervous system a moment to let go. With an exhale, left fingers begin to come down. We turn that right shoulder over to the left as well, taking time to find that same twist on this side. Whatever variation you took on one side, I'll invite you to repeat it on this side. And then offer your body 3 more full breaths, maybe cleansing breaths, deep exhales. With your own breath, begin to come up out of this shape. As we exit this shape, we'll swing the legs forward. Give yourself a couple breaths, a couple moments to roll through your ankles, to maybe point the toes, flex the feet, to sort of bounce or wiggle through your knees. There is no rush to pull the soles of the feet towards one another, but as you do so, I will invite you to rock through the sit bones a little bit here as well. Feel free once again to grab cushion for underneath your knees or underneath your chest. We will take a deep forward fold here, but I invite you to make it cozy. In fact, it may even feel good to bring opposite hands towards opposite shoulders as you melt forward. So we're really curling in to the space between the legs, like the legs are creating a nest for the torso. 4 to 6 breaths. When it feels good to lift up out of this pose, take your time to do so, and then to guide the body towards a meditative spot. That can be cross-legged, that can still be in a butterfly pose seated, that can be rolling down onto your back. If you have the ability to kick your legs towards the ceiling or to even relax your legs up against the side of a wall, know that that may feel particularly good, especially for a flooded nervous system. But we'll take a couple breaths here to sort of regulate the breath. So we aren't here particularly long. The pose can be a little bit more intentional, maybe a little more effort than you typically put into a resting pose. But as you settle in, I invite you to inhale and exhale for the same amount of time. So some people find it helpful to count the breath, like inhale for 1, 2, 3, exhale 3, 2, 1. I personally don't find counting helpful. I prefer to feel how much my belly lifts and then feel how much my belly drops. So feel free to bring a hand to your chest or belly, but truly in any way that makes sense to you, that is intuitive for you, begin to balance the breath. As though if the breath is a scale, one side does not tip higher or lower than the other as the breath flows in and out. Traditionally, this is done in through the nose and out through the nose, but if it helps you even out the breath by controlling your exhale through the mouth, or even your inhale through the mouth, you may certainly experiment with different techniques. And we'll take 6 more balanced breaths here. Last one. Know that you can come back to these poses, breath works, mudras, or any other part of this practice. Continue to take care of yourself and your nervous system. Namaste.